Good afternoon, everyone. Terrasoft Technology would like to welcome you to our 3CLogic webinar, How to Transform Citizen Services with Voice AI for ServiceNow. At this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to the 3CLogic team, G, Todd, and Geraldine. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Brooke, and thank you for all those who've taken the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. As mentioned, we're here to talk about how to transform citizen services, specifically with Voice AI for ServiceNow. In addition to Brooke's housekeeping items, a few of our own, just quickly noting that some of what we might cover today could be forward-looking in nature. We simply ask that you take that into consideration. We do have a packed agenda for you all today. We'll quickly do a round of introductions in terms of the 3CLogic team. We'll dive into some of the current customer experience challenges and trends that we're seeing in the marketplace that presumably some of you may also be feeling. And then we'll talk a little bit about how the 3CLogic and ServiceNow come together, presumably to help address some of those challenges. And then what perhaps most of you are most interested in, we'll spend some time in a live demonstration showcasing a few use cases of how it can all come together and address some of those pain points that we are going to tackle today. And then we'll end with some key takeaways and, time allowing, make some time to answer any questions that you may choose to enter in the chat. By virtue of introduction, my name is Guillaume. I lead the ServiceNow practice here at 3CLogic, and I'm joined by two of my key colleagues, Todd Rudd, who is the Director of Solution Engineering here at 3CLogic, as well as Geraldine Moronis, actually ex-ServiceNow herself, who joined 3CLogic and is one of our senior solution engineers as well, both of whom are going to help with today's topic, Geraldine specifically with the live demonstration. Now, if we kick off into sort of some of the challenges and trends that we're seeing, this one most notably probably sums it up best. The fact is that realistically, customer experience has always, by and large, been painful, and it's only increasing in terms of the complexity and the costs that are associated with being able, or at least attempting to deliver some of the experiences that citizens and customers expect. Interestingly enough, while there's been this push for digital transformation and self-service, the promise of self-service can arguably, be said is not been real, or certainly not has been met. When you look at government specifically, there's been a pretty heavy investment in self-service options, but per a recent Gartner survey, only about 14% of customer service issues are actually fully resolved over self-service channels. So very often what happens? Well, people call. And you've got those human agents really acting as middleware between the front office and the back office, trying to really parse together the different data sources, knowledge bases, etc., presumably across different systems, to hopefully help with the different queries that reach your traditional service desk. So by and large, not very efficient. At the same time, if we look at recent studies from Accenture here in this case, the vast majority of chief information officers actually see AI as being a key strategic answer to being able to enhance citizen experiences as a whole. But there's a pretty large disparity between that and where we sit in terms of AI adoption maturity. It's in the single digits as we speak. We at 3CLogic are big advocates of the potential for AI, hence today's topic, Voice AI for ServiceNow. But obviously, there's still some ways to go in terms of when it will be able to materialize some of the results that many of us expect. At the same time, when we talk about trends, we talk about voice, and we talk about ServiceNow and engagements in general, there's also been a pretty substantial revolution over the last year and change when it comes to how customers want to engage. Traditionally, obviously, voice has been the channel that everyone depends on, but one might say has arguably loved to come to love to hate. Why? Because traditionally, when you're calling, it's because you've exhausted all other options. And then, of course, you're encounter that traditional experience of waiting on hold, reaching an agent who may not be the right agent, and so on and so forth, or even having to call back again, and sometimes going through that groundhog-like experience. Now with AI, voice has the potential to really live up to the expectations when it comes to the experiences that we've always hoped it would be able to deliver in the past. So instead of those archaic, very static press one, press two type experiences, we are now able to deliver conversational experiences that can understand your intent, and really drive towards a new era of customer engagements. Hence why today we're going to be very focused on how voice AI can really help meet some of the challenges that presumably many of you, depending on your roles, may very well be facing when it comes to delivering citizen experiences at scale. With that, that's actually a pretty good segue into actually diving into some of those challenges. So Todd's going to join me here and walk through a few of them. Todd, we've kind of talked about what the data showcases, right? Um, Customer experience is not where we'd want it to be. AI is supposed to be part of the answer. Voice is quickly coming back into style in terms of preference and use in light of some of the shortcomings when it comes to digital channels as an alternative. When we talk about some of the key challenges, let's walk me through, maybe the top four.
Sure, and thanks. Thanks for your time, everyone. Just a quick word about me. I've been in customer service technology space for over 20 years, and primarily invoice. And to Guillaume's point, that is, it's another inflection point where it is, really making a surge as becoming easier to use with the introduction of some of the technology you'll see today. With regards to customer expectations, having seen this broad perspective for so many years, we think of a typical commercial enterprise as customers are being very demanding and having high levels of expectation of ECU service, and that's reliable because in many cases they have options. They'll shop and they'll go somewhere else. When you speak to public sector, that you don't really have those options, but we as citizens are the customers, and we really feel owed a high level of customer services, basically due to the taxes that we pay and being a part of the community. We have a very high level of expectation for the same reasons. We will use self-service if it's easy to use. We just want what's fast and efficient, accurate, and accessible. And while we won't pick up and move necessarily as easily, we will very quickly escalate and complain when that self-service is not helping us out in the way we want it to help.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So obviously, those human-like experiences, right? Whether it's through automated means or, obviously live interactions. What else would you highlight as one of the challenges, Todd?
Well, the fragmented data, across the workflow. So, making sure that all of the when you have a complex issue, and we'll see some of that today, that has multiple touch points and may not be easily resolvable through self-service, making sure that every touch point along the way is working from the common set of data, not only what I provided as a customer, but what has been done before, so that there's continuity and you don't have to, me as a customer, I don't have multiple contacts just to repeat the same information, or information that I'd provided isn't being carried through, and leading to a frustrating experience. Just as an example, for instance, if I were to call in and say that, every time we get a heavy storm, the storm drain in front of my house clogs. And this has been going on for about a year, ever since the development up the street was built. So a maintenance team will pick up that ticket and they'll come out and they'll clear debris out of the storm drain and perhaps close that ticket. Or maybe there was some continuity and it made it to another team to say, okay, there's a recurring issue, and they drive out and see a bunch of trees. Let's clear out all the trees. But without all of that information that I provided, making it through every touch point, that it's really a systemic issue that has been going on for a while, that odds are that ticket is not going to be resolved, and it's going to be keep being a recurring issue over time, and I'll keep being frustrated.
So what you're referring to is a little bit about connecting the dots, right? That kind of
Yep.
speaks to this idea, going back to that earlier slide, the idea that sometimes it feels like a request goes into a black box, but what we don't always have an appreciation for as citizens, as consumers, is that, you put in a request, it might have to go through quite a number of different steps and processes. Walk us through some of the challenges that originate there as well.
Right, exactly right. It's being efficient at each step, and having all of the detailed information that requires each team to be able to do its job appropriately. And so, when you have a multi-step process, if some of the information that has been available previously is not there, that there's going to be someone going to have to reach back out and get more information, or they're going to have to do a second visit. Overall, the workflow itself is challenged, and it's just going to take too long, likely not resolve the issue without a lot of overhead.
So of course now that speaks to the sort of the excitement around agentic AI, right? For example, the idea that you could remove some of the human middleware and automate some of these processes, save time, and at least ideally connect the dots. But of course, there's some fear around, perhaps an over adoption of AI, right? So walk us through some of the concerns there.
Exactly right. So everybody, AI is going to be the solution to all our ills. And it does have a tremendous amount of potential, as we'll see today, I think, in that it can be very powerful to resolve issues and resolve things very efficiently. Likewise, depending on the maturity of the organization or the type of issues being addressed, it can be very powerful as an assistive technology to an agent, helping them do their job better. And sometimes it just doesn't, there's no role here, and it just make sure that your workflows and your organizations are arranged, and your AI journey is set up such that when self-service and AI is not adding value, then just get it out of the way and let the experts handle it.
Yeah, finding that balance between the two, between AI and of course your human assets. So obviously, if we take a look at what we're going to dive into, and we're just very shortly here about to enter the live demonstration, which I'm sure our audience is eager to see. What we're ultimately advocating for is an opportunity to really change the way in which citizen experiences and services are being delivered. But the way in which that can be accomplished is only if the engagement layer is really tapped into where the work actually happens. And that's, of course, for today's purposes, in ServiceNow. So when someone calls in, whether it's for self-service or whether it's because they want to get to an individual, how can you deliver those human-like experiences, deflect those common repetitive calls, for example, to Todd's example, people reporting issues in their neighborhood, or want to know when the trash pickup is going to happen. You might need different levels of assistance. Some could be AI exclusive, others may require the participation of a human agent. But regardless, in the background, how does it connect all the different processes, data, and knowledge bases and so forth, so that that back office can now actually facilitate those front office requests. And again, when you look at the proliferation of voice and voice AI, it is actually the most efficient form of communication. That's why even during older, more archaic IVR type voice experiences, people were still willing to call because it is still the most successful form of service. Enter AI, and you have an opportunity to exponentially improve what that experience can deliver, and perhaps reduce the dependency on knowledge bases, digital assets, and so forth that historically to date have delivered, but perhaps not to the extent we had hoped. So with that, I think this is a great opportunity to bring in Geraldine, because ultimately we can talk about this ad nauseum, but there's something to be said about seeing it for yourself. But before we dive into a live demonstration, Geraldine, walk us through sort of what's the narrative that you're going to leverage for today's example case.
Sorry, guys, I couldn't find my mute button. So Todd, help me out here as well. So we're going to talk about intent when it comes to the inbound voice AI agent themselves.
Yeah. So, Geraldine's going to show you the scenario here with Michael. And primarily what you're going to see is a strong experience on the front end that's empowered by voice AI that which leverages generative AI and natural language processing to understand the intent and collect information, and ideally those cases will be resolved through self-service. But we're also going to continue on and show the full workflow here that could extend into assisted service by an agent, and how AI, that voice AI and that full conversation that was held with the caller is now presented to the agent, and how assisted technologies for using AI can help the agent do their job better, and understand the issue, use AI for summarization as well as some of its back office work. So that's what you'll see in the end-to-end workflow that Geraldine's about to present. Again, Michael's going to call in to report a fallen tree. So, Geraldine.
All right, I think that's my cue.
Let me stop sharing my screen and hand over to you, Geraldine.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. So we are currently looking at our front-facing portal of ServiceNow. What I really want to talk about today is I went on site to a city, and they had a very common issue, which was they have all of the information available online in their front-facing portal of ServiceNow. But what they had an issue with is people were still calling about this. So let's pretend this is your city's front-facing portal of ServiceNow. When we go on their website and select request something, we have kind of a portal situation that appears for a form, right? People can then submit what's in their way, their first and last name, phone number, email address, so on and so forth. What could be in their way? Vegetation, landscaping, a shrub is blocking my view when I'm trying to drive. Another use case they had was their lights and signals being down, or a public nuisance. Someone's junk car has been out on the street for 2 weeks, or maybe someone disposed of their washing machine and hasn't been properly disposed of. So that kind of stuff. While all of this information was readily available in their front-facing portal of ServiceNow, they were still getting people calling in. Similarly, with their FAQs. So they had this huge page of frequently asked questions. I've adapted it obviously for the demo purposes today, but they had a huge FAQ page of, I think it was like 50 or 60 questions that were constantly getting called in about. But once again, even though the information is right here in front of them, people are still calling in about it. So what we're also able to do is gather information from ServiceNow and be able to create that AI agent. So let me stop talking about it and show you guys instead. Okay, you're looking at 3CLogic's Voice AI Hub here. Let me go ahead and walk through a potential experience for you guys. Hello.
Hi, I'm Cardinal, your AI assistant for your city. How may I help you?
Hi, I need to report a fallen tree.
It sounds like there's something in your way. Can you please provide me with the nearest intersecting streets?
Yes, I saw it when I was on my way to work, so that would be Hillsborough Drive and North Street.
Thank you for that information. Can you please describe the fallen tree? For example, is it blocking the road or sidewalk, and any other details you think are important?
Yeah, there was a huge storm last night, which is what I think happened to the tree. So it might be a good idea to check the surrounding area as well. I'm really concerned about pedestrians and children, as it is blocking the sidewalk and part of the bike lane.
Thank you for the detailed description. I will create a ServiceNow case to report the fallen tree blocking the sidewalk and bike lane, especially considering the safety concerns for pedestrians and children. Can I have your first and last name, please?
Yes, my name is Michael Scott.
I've created a ServiceNow case to report the fallen tree. Your case number is CS00199901. You can use this number to track the progress of your report. Thanks for caring about your city. We're all in this together.
I actually have a quick question still.
Sure, what question do you have?
What do I do if I see a sewer leak?
If you see a sewer leak, you should call 919-996-3245 and press option 1 as soon as possible. Your city's water staff are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond to emergency calls like this. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
No, thank you. All right, so a couple of things to take note of here, right? So we had a much more conversational experience. Whereas with your traditional IVR or NLU flows, you are kind of being restricted to what you can say. We're used to seeing or hearing things such as, thank you for calling, you can press 1 for this or press 2 for that, or thank you for calling, you can say something like HR or benefits. Here, we're not being restricted. We had a much more human-like conversation. If we scroll down a little bit here, we had that case that was created inside of ServiceNow. And we had that quick question that I asked, which we referenced that FAQ knowledge article that I just showed you in the previous tab. So now what we're going to do is move over to ServiceNow and take a look at what this can look like for your agents, your live agents. So we are able to push information into a ServiceNow instance. We can populate it inside of your agent's ServiceNow inbox here at the bottom, or even in their notification center up here. I have it going to our case table just for quick access. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you guys. All right, so it's the very first one that we saw ending in 901. While this pulls up, let me see here. Okay, there it is. Took a little bit to load. But we have my fallen tree report because I was able to provide my name, Michael Scott. It exists inside of the system. Here's my short description and a much longer description, right? About the sidewalk and part of the bike lane being blocked at Hillsborough Drive and North Street, likely that it fell to a storm, so on and so forth. So we have all of this great information at my fingertips as the live agent so that I can now maybe dispatch our tree trimming service or our city's tree workers. Okay, so that's one scenario. The other one that we wanted to discuss today is the idea of maybe I still want to talk to a live agent. So my mom is one of those people. She will just press 0 or press 1 until she gets a live person. That's totally okay. That's why 3CLogic is so powerful, is because we're a full end-to-end contact center. So let's say we had said, you know, I still want to talk to a live person about my issue. Let me go ahead and push that call through into our CTI. So in just a second here, we will be seeing what's called a screen pop of our CTI. CTI just stands for computer telephony integration, so that now I, as a live agent, can answer this phone call. So here it is. I'll go ahead and accept that call. And mute myself so we have none of that feedback here. But as you can see, as the live agent, I have all of the information or the entire dialogue that the constituent that just called had with the AI agent. And where Now Assist comes in is if I open this up, create a new chat here, we can summarize that conversation. So if I press down here, summarize conversation, we are feeding Now Assist that full transcription. So now I, as the live agent, instead of having to read the entire conversation line by line, what I can quickly do is gather this information and then be able to answer that question or have a better conversation with the person calling in. So let me go ahead and showcase our RTT or real-time transcription functionality. Let me go ahead and unmute myself here. Thank you for calling. How may I help you? Okay, this is a little bit difficult to demo when it's just me going back and forth, but I did want to showcase that real-time transcription, how we're able to kind of have that back and forth conversation. Moreover, what we're able to do is we have all the functionality you can expect and more from a soft phone, so I won't spend too much time here. What I can do is now hang up my phone call, select a disposition or result code. These result codes come in handy a little bit later to talk about that better together story with ServiceNow. Let's go ahead and say we want to follow up with Michael Scott tomorrow morning so that we are aware that the tree has been taken care of. I can finalize that phone call. And once that happens, that transcript once again comes in, and here is that generative AI summary for the agent as well. These notes come in here. We can then kick off a ServiceNow workflow or an agentic AI workflow because, you know, I'm a human being. What if I clock back in tomorrow morning and forget to follow up with Michael Scott in this tree issue? I may forget, but the system doesn't have to. So there's that better together story. We provide the information. ServiceNow can then take over with their agentic workflows. Okay, I'm going to pause here and see if G or Todd have any questions or, oh, sorry, not questions, anything to add additionally to what I've shown so far. Make sure I'm not missing anything.
No, I think it's good. Obviously, what we're showcasing to the audience here is sort of what is the experience, right? And what is the potential of merging together voice AI and that engagement layer on top of obviously the workflows and data models that are so native to ServiceNow. I think what'll be also interesting is showcasing how did that voice agent came to be, Geraldine. But there are no questions from the field just yet.
Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and move on to our next portion of the demonstration, which is when it comes to the how. So we are now back into 3CLogic's Voice AI Hub. All of this is done with prompt engineering, right? So these AI agents are only going to be as valuable and as intelligent as you make them. We're going on here. I gave Cardinal a name. We were able to provide a prompt, what we're supposed to be looking for, some greeting, guardrails, ending messages, so on and so forth. So what I really want to drive home here is that these AI agents aren't going to go to sleep. They're not going to ask you for time off. I was a receptionist during college. When I had a bad day, you could definitely hear it in my voice. With these guys, you're going to be able to truly provide a persona, a voice. Here's that personality tab, right? How friendly do we want them to be? Humorous, concise, or not concise? We have an HR, PTO agent that we demo sometimes, and I put that guy all the way at very, very, very detailed, because if someone calls in and says, well, why don't I have enough PTO? We have to be able to explain policies and so on and so forth. So we can really kind of tailor that personality for each AI agent, as well as have a voice. So we chose, I believe it was Hope. Yep, we chose Hope for this voice today. So if you prefer a male voice over a female voice, different languages, for example, if my mom calls in, you're going to need a Spanish speaker to help her out. But if your team has no Spanish speakers, your AI agent may speak Spanish. So there's just something there to keep an eye out for. Next thing I wanted to talk about here is the actual abilities that we were able to provide this AI agent. Here's my ability to create that ServiceNow case. As you can see here, this is our instance, and I push that case into the case table of ServiceNow. I asked for a 3 to 7 word description and a much longer description, about 3 to 4 sentences. So let me go back. Hold on, I had my nice tab system, but let's go back to it. I wanted to showcase, if we go back to the actual case, we can talk about how we had that short description and that much longer description that came through. So here's that case I was talking about. Once again, the 3 to 7 sentences for a short description, and a 3 to 4 sentences 3 to 7 word short description, 3 to 4 sentence long description. So here we're able to get that information. All right. The next one that we talked about, or I was able to add that ability towards, was the knowledge base article itself. How did we know what knowledge article to pull up? So I pointed the AI agent towards our entire knowledge base. So think big here. I'm really only adding 2 abilities to this AI agent, but we can really do so much. I have it crawling our entire knowledge base to find that FAQ, or I have a quick question. So we're looking for those keywords. And here was that, here it is. There it is, that FAQ. I asked about what I can do if there's a sewer leak, and here's the exact response we received from our voice AI agent, that the city's water staff is available 24/7, so on and so forth. All right, I believe that's the end of what I wanted to show today, but once again, Todd and G, if there's anything else you want me to add.
No, but there were a few questions. Maybe I'll direct them towards you, Todd, from the audience. One which was, does the AI have the capability of cross-referencing data from another system to provide answers to the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Geraldine just showed that in this case, she's referencing ServiceNow for the knowledge articles, but that could easily be another system that we were hitting through a HTTP type API request externally. So as long as there's an API, we can hit it and take data from it, reference data, as well as post. Typically we are working directly and very much geared towards ServiceNow. So that's where we're hosting these knowledge articles, but we do have capability for other third-party systems, read and write.
And of course, there are best practices when it comes to building agents, right? In this case, Geraldine, we built one specific agent, obviously for the purposes of today's demonstration. But can you walk us, either yourself or Todd, about this concept of a swarm and how that helps alleviate some of the, hallucinations that sometimes may occur otherwise?
I'll take that if you don't mind, Geraldine. The description, you don't have to page back, but that description, the job description essentially that's given to the AI, we do subscribe to the idea of keeping them very targeted and basically being able to do one job or a specific type of job and do it very well. And so you can have very strong prompting around how to do that job, where to get its information, things it should always do in every case, and things it should never do. And so you can put guardrails such that it doesn't hallucinate around that one job. The bigger you make a job, the more information or more decisions the generative AI has to make, the more likely it is to hallucinate. So by using quote unquote, the swarm philosophy, where you have targeted agents that you can much more tightly control, you're really able to curate the content you're providing back out to your callers.
So maybe one that specializes in trees and being down, another one that specializes specifically in sewage or reporting car accidents or things of that nature. We do have one other question before we move forward. I think we've addressed it partially, but can the AI research a system, read nodes, and provide status of an application and explain what was missing in the application? I'm assuming the use case here is someone may have already made a submission, but it's incomplete and is stuck in process. Todd?
Sure, absolutely. As long as it's given the knowledge of what is required, where to find that information, it would absolutely be able to reference that and look for gaps or look for guidance out of that content and make recommendations back to the caller. Again, with the generative, the ChatGPT type solutions that everybody's used to using, it's a conversational style, so it's much more easier to consume. It's not going to be just in rigid content that's in a voice prompt in an IVR system. It is going to be a dialogue, so you could even ask more questions about it, about the responses you get, and really get specific and helpful content back to you.
And it doesn't have to fit a specific order so much as make sure that at the end of the conversation, the information that it needs to collect to be able to process your request has in fact been collected. So if you skipped a step but answered a few additional questions, it'll eventually come back and make sure that that remaining item is addressed.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, let me, if you don't mind, Geraldine, I'm going to steal the screen back from you. Great demonstration. Hopefully our audience enjoyed it. And really what we're going to try and do here is dive into some key takeaways, right? And so this comes back to you, Todd. So if you were to sort of, compare it to, obviously we went through key challenges. If our audience were to walk away with anything, walk us through some of the key takeaways you'd hope they'd walk away with.
It says voice to solve, not stall. So with this capabilities, with the generative AI type solutions that you can converse with, you made voice self-service very accessible. And while we've always targeted definitely low-hanging fruit for self-service, with being able to have a dialogue, you've really made expanded what is really low-hanging fruit and made much more things, more items easier to provide self-service around, as well as the assisted service down the line, where you're able to give full context of what my issue is and why it matters to me, so that even if it's not self-served, the workflow will be much more efficient because I've given everything about the issue that I can.
And it also provides or extends this idea that you care, right? Traditionally, when you call, you're on hold forever, you sort of get the sense that you're an afterthought, right? And that has a lot to do with some of the complexities and efficiencies, of the multi-system environments that most organizations' operations have. But to your point, when we say voice to solve, not to stall, the idea is now voice can be a proactive part of the solution, right? It can help while agents are busy, still make progress in trying to triage your issue, maybe even never needing to get to an agent in the first place, or getting the use case to a certain point where when they do pick it up, certain things have already been accomplished, right? Now,
Yep.
that kind of talks about the optimization of customer experience. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, really. I mean, it is with being able to leverage a common set of data, a complete picture of all the information at every step along the workflow. That workflow is going to be just much more efficient and exact and accurate. And so you won't have the repeat calls that you have to make to explain the same sort of thing, or repeated touch point. And me as a caller, my issues are being resolved, and it feels efficient to me. And I'm going to meet that elevated customer expectations that we talked about earlier. That my experience is going to be met in this kind of service that you talk about.
And you're collecting the right amount of information in the front office so that the back office can actually has what it needs to be able to process your requests. Now, we're
Right.
talking a lot about automation here, and AI. Sorry, I know it's still 2025. AI is still a hot topic, but we did talk about sort of that human component, right? So, walk us through how, and we showcased real-time transcription. We sort of skipped over the fact that that can also lead to sentiment analysis. Can you walk through some of the benefits that that can bring to an operation, as it pertains to the continued use of their human assets, their live agents?
Yeah, we really did. It not only with the transcription made available to the agent to provide real-time assistance to them to understand the issue and be more efficient in triaging it, the ability to use AI, leveraging the conversation to perform sentiment evaluation in real time, and a supervisor be able to see that in real time and provide assistance in real time, versus after the fact. Coaching in real time, it's going to be much more effective versus after the fact, using a limited set of calls later on to evaluate the agent or evaluate our performance. When you can execute these things as they're happening, the coaching is going to be much more relevant to me as an agent, and I'm getting it, and I can see in context why this might be better, as well as for the organization, that you're going to be able to correct issues before they become bigger issues.
Right. And what we're talking about is enhancing the performance of the agents themselves, right? And we showed a few of those use cases where the transcription can feed ServiceNow's Now Assist. Now Assist can automate certain actions or insights on behalf of the agent. Talk us through about, and to your earlier point, you introduced yourself as, well over 2 decades, in the contact center space. You've seen a few things, right? So walk us through how this is, potentially really game changing compared to, years past.
Yeah, so and I'm certain I don't have the statistics, but as far as the amount of time agents spend post-call, it equals, if not exceeds, the amount of time they spend on a call traditionally. And not to mention what we just talked about with regards to having to research or go find a knowledge article to help me. When you have AI assisting me during a call, as well as post-call, my workflow itself is easier and more accurate. So I'm getting relevant recommendations real time based on AI evaluating that conversation on how to work the issue, as well as can use the assistance tools for generating my call resolution notes, as well as any other after workflows required for my basic administrative duties. And we've all used AI to help us out with routine documentation, and the agents now are getting a lot of robust tools around doing the same thing to help their overall workflow, not just while they're on a call.
Well, I know we're coming up against time. We've covered a lot. So first, thank you, Todd and Geraldine, for helping, walk through this on behalf of our audience. Obviously, we're just touching the surface of what is possible using today's, very specific set of use cases to showcase how voice AI, most importantly, together with ServiceNow, can really, merge engagement and workflow to really, ultimately improve outcomes. If you're not familiar with 3CLogic, if this is your first introduction to who we are and what we do, just a couple minutes, if not less. We've been part of the ServiceNow ecosystem for a very, very long time. And what we are best known for is our ServiceNow-centric contact center and voice AI platform and capabilities, of which you can see just an oversight or a general list of what those capabilities are, including secure payments and things of that nature. And today we focused specifically on just a few of them. We understand that obviously when it comes to citizen experiences or your operations, it could be internal, it could be external. So we do integrate with all of the different ServiceNow product sets, whether it's IT service management, HR and employee workflows, or CRM and customer service management to help your IT service desks, your customer support team, citizen services, as well as your employee support groups. If anything we've covered today, presumably has sparked an interest in, wanting to explore where what we do together with ServiceNow could potentially help you and your operations, then we obviously welcome an opportunity to have a conversation. And you can reach us here very conveniently at servicenow@3clogic.com. That's servicenow@3clogic.com. And if I take a last glance here at questions, I don't know if we have any outstanding ones yet. So I want to thank again our audience for joining us. And with that, Brooke, I will turn it back over to you.
Thanks, G. Thank you to all of our participants, as well as G, Todd, and Geraldine for being with us today. We hope that this information has been helpful, and as G mentioned, if you have any further questions or would like more information, please feel free to reach out. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.